Hi everyone, welcome to Blazor WebAssembly Cookie Authentication Series. So today we are going to discuss about Twitter authentication for our Blazor WebAssembly application. Okay, so let's jump into enabling the Twitter authentication. So here is our API project. Now we have to install a Twitter NuGet package to enabling the Twitter authentication in our API project. Okay. Install Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Authentication.Twitter into our API project. Copy the command. Okay, after installing the NuGet, let's register our API project into the Twitter developer dashboard. Okay, search like Twitter developer and click on the developer portal. Okay, here you can see developer portal, right? Click on it. Okay, since I have already logged in, I have directly navigated to the dashboard page. Okay, here you can observe you need to create a project first. Okay, so give any name. I will give like .NET 6. Okay, click on next and I will select like teaching and I will give same description, anything you can give, and now project is set up. So inside of the project, we can create a number of applications. Okay, so my app environment for the demo, I can select development environment. Okay, click on next. Here I have to specify the app name. Okay, so I will specify like .NET 6 API. Okay, so here you can see keys and token. So let's copy the API key and API secret because we have to configure them into our API project. Okay, so please copy them. They are one time. We can copy. If you want to copy again, the keys will be regenerated. Okay, so one time only key. Copy them for now. So for now, I will paste them on the notepad. So this is ID and this is secret key. Okay, secret key. Next, I am going to add them into my API project. Okay, now click on app settings. Okay, now you can see here. Here is our project name. Inside of the project, you can see apps. So if you want, if you have any doubt, you can see here menu also. .NET 6 is a project. Inside of it, API. We can create a number of app projects inside, sorry, apps inside of the project. Okay. So if you scroll down, here you can see authentication not set up, right? So we need to set up the authentication setup now. So please select OAuth 2.0 configuration and OAuth 1.0 also. But basically, this NuGet package, Microsoft only is currently supporting 1.0 only. Okay. And next, select like web app. Okay. And here, one more thing we have to remember: request email from users. Please enable it. If you don't enable it, whenever we authenticate with the Twitter, in the authentication claims, we won't see the email claim. Okay. So if you want email claim, you need to ask this permission. Okay. I will leave app permissions only read. Okay. Here you need to specify the callback URL. Okay. So let me go to my API project and let's copy the domain name. So my domain name is this one, API project URL. Okay. In the callback URL, I can specify and path is like sign in hyphen Twitter. So this path is default path. Okay. It should be like that only. And here it is expecting few more required fields like website URL, terms and services. So actually it won't accept normal localhost URL. Okay. If I paste my localhost URL, invalid URL only it will show. Okay. So for that what we can do means Okay, here double quote, remove it. Okay, now callback URL is valid, and here website URL field doesn't accept the localhost URL. So without giving some proper domain, we cannot save. So for that, what I did, I have created a sample domain with the Blogspot or WordPress. You can create, right? I have created with Blogspot. It's a sample original domain. Okay. So these are all the domains I have created. Like this, you can create for learning purpose. So I will use this Blogspot domain because they are free to create, right? Sorry, not here. Here. And I have created two pages there, one for terms and conditions and one for principles. These are dummy pages, empty pages. Just for sake of registration, I have created. Okay, to fulfill uh, our learning for the Twitter authentication. Okay, so here what we did, we enabled OAuth 2.0, 1.0, and selected web app type of app and requested email user and callback redirect URL. You have to specify our API domain, and sign in Twitter is a default uh, redirect path. Okay, so remaining are like we have added some dummy domains. Now save it. Okay, that's it. We have successfully registered our API project into the Twitter dashboard. Now let's add Twitter settings into my API project. So go to appsettings.development.json. Here add Twitter settings. Okay, it contains like API key and then API secret. Okay, so we have just saved them to Notepad, right? So we will use them. So copy this API key, copy this secret key. Okay, now let's register the Twitter service in the program.cs file. Okay, go to program.cs file. So here we can add Twitter. Okay, it gives Twitter setting for us. So consumer key and t dot consumer secret. Okay, along with this, we need to configure one more setting like t dot retrieve all details. Okay, to true. So what is this Boolean property means? If you hover here, you can see enable the retrieval user details during the authentication process, including email address. Okay, if you want email address or some user information, this must be enabled. Mainly, if you want email address, this should be true. Okay, and now here we need to bring our settings from the app settings. For that, let's copy this line of code. Okay, so paste it over here for API key and secret and app setting.json, copy Twitter settings. Okay, replace with this setting. Okay, and next API key, API key, API secret, API secret. Okay, so that's about the Twitter registration service. Okay, now let's create an action method into our auth controller for Twitter login. Okay, so here public action result Twitter login. Okay, this is my action method. And we know that our action method contains external action methods will contain a input parameter like return URL. So this return URL will be our Blazor WebAssembly URL. So it will be a HTTP GET request, and I will assign route like Twitter login. Okay. So here, if let's copy code from our Facebook controller, which we did in video 2. Okay. So let's copy this line of code to make our video short. So we know that for external logins, we will use challenge method. So from this challenge, they can redirect to external providers login page. Okay. And here I have to specify the authentication. So this is not Facebook authentication, right? So Twitter default. Okay. Default, I think. Yes. Twitter default dot authentication scheme. This is just a constant. See, constant Twitter. Okay. And next, we have to change the callback method. So we know that callback method means once this challenge navigate us to Twitter login page. If the user is successfully logged in with Twitter, then Twitter redirect us to the action method that's we are going to specify here. Okay. So let's create one more callback method here. So public async ask action result Twitter login callback. Okay. So this is my callback action method, and it is also contains input parameter return URL because here we are passing, right? So because ultimately after success we need to redirect back to our Blazor URL. So it should be HTTP GET only, and let me define some route Twitter login callback. Okay. So this is my action method. So now what I will do, I will copy Facebook callback method because most of the code is similar only. Okay. So let's copy this code from here from Facebook callback. Okay. And paste it over here. So let's modify here. So first we need to check whether the authentication with the Twitter is success or not. For that, here we should specify Twitter defaults. Okay. So this line of code gives us information with whether Twitter authentication is successful or not. Okay. If that is successful, we are getting claims from the authentication. So whenever once from the Twitter login page redirects back to our API project, right? So at that time, our framework will create a cookie. So that cookie we cannot control. It will create authentication cookie and claims will be added. Those claims are taken from the Twitter. So whenever our request entered to this callback method, already authentication cookie is ready. So that we can get the authenticated claims from the HTTP context. But these are claims that are directly taken from the Twitter. Okay. So here we're getting like Twitter. Uh, better take given name, not name. Okay. And surname as my claims from the Twitter cookie claims. Okay. So next what I am doing, I am simply calling manage external login user. So this method is a common method for this entire series for external login providers. Okay. And I will change only this one external login name, which is Twitter. Okay. So let's go through this method also briefly. So here simply with the help of email and external login type like Facebook or Twitter. Okay, we're trying to search the user. If user exists, we will directly return. If user not exist, we will insert them into our database because we need to have user information, right? So we will save them and finally return the created user. So that is the responsibility of this manage external logins method. Okay, and so using those claims, we are going to create your Twitter user into our database if the user is login first time. Okay, next refresh in the external login. I have mentioned, right, on entering to this method, cookie is already created by the .NET Core, so our API only based on the Twitter claims, right? But I want to claim like user which we are created here. New, if it is new user will be created, right? I want to store that ID into the my authentication cookie. Like that, I want to uh, control my authentication cookie. So what I will do, I am refreshing the authentication cookie. Refreshing is nothing but just I am I am signing out the user. So I am signing out the user with the existing cookie, which is .NET Core automatically created when it is entered into my callback method. But I am again creating a new cookie with the user claims that are stored in my database. Okay, so that is refreshing external login cookie. Okay, so that method is called here finally. And if everything is good, then we are redirecting to my Blazor WebAssembly application with external true. That means authentication is successful. If your Twitter authentication is not successful, here I am redirected to Blazor WebAssembly application again, but external auth is false. Okay, so like this we have to specify, and here let's give our callback method name. Okay, that's it. We are done with implementing the Twitter authentication login in our controller. Okay, let's jump into our Blazor WebAssembly application and add Twitter authentication link over there. Okay, so for that, so go to login.razor page. Okay, here we have already added Facebook link, right, in previous video. Now let's add Twitter authentication as well. Copy this entire thing. Okay, name it like Twitter. Okay, let's change the path here. Okay, copy from our controller. What is path? Twitter login? Okay, and in the query return URL, we are using our Blazor WebAssembly domain. Okay, so now let's run both our API and Blazor WebAssembly applications. Okay, here is our Blazor WebAssembly. Click on login page. Here we got Twitter link. So click on it. See here. Now it is asking Twitter login page. So let's give my username and password and click on sign in. See, it is redirecting for the application back. See, I got my Twitter username and successfully logged in. So let's check all the claims what we will get in the profile API. If I reload in the profile API response, see, email and first name are getting from the Twitter. And now let's check in the database whether the user is created or not. Okay, here you can see my email and Twitter username has been added into my user table in the database. That means we have successfully registered the user into our table as well. So that's all about the enabling Twitter authentication into my Blazor WebAssembly application. Okay, and one main thing is in the first and second video, main core logic of entire designing how profile API is calling, how authentication is maintaining the state in Blazor WebAssembly application as the detailed explained. So both 1 and 2 must be watched to understand this video. Okay. I hope this video has delivered some useful information to you all. If you like my video, please support me by subscribing to my channel. Soon I am going to meet with you with new videos. Until then, signing off.